Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Well, welcome to the July Greater Rochester Faith Inclusion Network meeting. These meetings are an opportunity for people with disabilities and their family and clergy in the Rochester and Buffalo areas to come together and to talk about areas of faith and disability. And each month we have a guest speaker who joins us as well. This month that we are honored to have with us the Reverend Tom Jones, who is the executive director of the Faith Inclusion Network, now based in Midland, Texas. The Faith Inclusion Network helps to connect people living with disabilities and their families with faith communities of their choice, and also works on other ways to connect faith leaders and to be able to talk about areas of faith and disability. And so Tom will share with us more today, more about the Faith Inclusion Network and also connections that the organization has with the Disability Ministry Network, which does some similar work, and also the Institute on Theology and Disability, which is a national conference which takes place each year at different places around the country, connecting both clergy and seminarians who live with disabilities, scholars who live with disabilities, and others doing work in the area of theology and disability as well. Before I turn it over to you, Tom, and thank you so much for being here. I'd just like to invite my friend Todd Goddard, who is here, to introduce himself, and I'll just give a short introduction of myself as well. So thank you.
Hi, Tom. I'm Todd Goddard, and I'm a retired United Methodist pastor, and I have 41 years under my belt and starting my 42nd in a half-time parish. I have an adult son with autism and been partners with Heritage Christian Services for at least the past 25 years and have helped establish day programs in churches where I've served. My son and I, we operate the coffee shop here at Peter's Family Life Center and on a volunteer basis. And I've made 5 trips to Central America, 3 to Guatemala on behalf of Heritage and their International Disabilities mission effort. So I'm deeply committed to faith and inclusion, and I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
So, excellent. Thank you, Todd. And I am Patty Collins-Bohrer, and also I am part of the Faith Community Inclusion team here at Heritage Christian Services. The Greater Rochester Faith Inclusion Network is one of our initiatives through Heritage Christian, and one of 5 faith community inclusion team members. We help to connect the people we support with faith communities of their choice. Also do a lot of traditional work of ministry of chaplaincy as well. Also a priest in the Episcopal Church in the Diocese of Rochester here, and also have lived experience with cerebral palsy. And it is a delight to have you with us today, Tom.
Thank you, Patty. I appreciate the invitation to talk with you today and share a little bit about the Faith Inclusion Network. I want to first say, since knowing Patty through the Faith Inclusion Network, and I'm so impressed with the work that Heritage Christian does and the work in the community, the support that it provides pastors and other churches, and the way that they connect people with disabilities with faith communities. And so it sounds like a really neat, really great thing that you're doing there and in the community. And so thank you for that. Um, I'm going to share my screen just for a little bit here.
Let's see if I can get you.
But my name is Tom Jones. I'm not going to sing for you today, and that is my gift to you today, is to refrain from singing. But just a little bit about myself. I'm coming to you from Midland, Texas, and I have, let's
Should be able to share there.
okay. But I had my roots in the Methodist Church as well, and went through seminary and at SMU at Perkins, and so I had difficulty. I lived with epilepsy for 40 years, and so I had difficulty with the ordination process, and so. But I went into taught special education for 25 years in the elementary school, and then towards the end, we started a nonprofit called Share at First Christian Church here in Midland, and it started out as a respite care ministry for families, for parents and families that care for kids with disabilities. And so it grew into a nonprofit that focuses strictly on the needs of family members. And so we had respite care, we have support groups, moms groups, dads groups, and sibling support. And so we did that, and and in the process of, I became ordained in the Disciples of Christ denomination in 2015. And so that my ministry there was at Share. I retired from Share in 2020, and then and one of the things I noticed was that a lot of the families that we served did not attend church for a variety of different reasons. And while Share addressed a lot of different needs that the families had, we never did address the spiritual needs. And that's what I wanted to do in my retirement, is kind of focus on the spiritual needs of families and connect them with local churches. After retirement, I'm currently the Associate Minister of Inclusion Ministry at First Christian. But one of the things I got connected with was the Faith Inclusion Network. And so I felt like it was a great organization, a small nonprofit in Norfolk, Virginia, where Karen Jackson started it. She was a mom with a daughter who has autism, and she couldn't find a place to worship, and finally found one at a Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church. They didn't have any answers, but they said, we'll figure it out. And from that, she went on she figured other parents are dealing with the same issues. And so she connected with other parents and talked with other churches and did some trainings. She brought some people together to form a network of ministers, parents, families, the service providers. And so she formed this network, and it became a nonprofit called the Faith Inclusion Network. And that's when I got connected. And I thought, I was thinking, in Midland, Texas, when people with families did not attend church. And a lot of the reasons were they didn't know. They didn't know who was welcoming and who was accepting. And one of the things the Faith Inclusion Network did was it posted online the different churches that had programs and that were welcoming and accepting. And I thought, we need one out here in West Texas. And so that's how I got connected with the Faith Inclusion Network. And so was on the board, and then there were some executive transitions. Karen, Karen, the founder, moved into teaching music, and so because of my experience running a nonprofit here in Midland, Texas, I volunteered and applied to be the executive director. It proved pretty hard to run a nonprofit halfway across the country, and so because of some of my connections here in Midland and where the philanthropy is very strong, our board decided to move the location to Midland, and so there wasn't a building or property or anything. Since COVID, everything is by Zoom as we're meeting today. And so that's just a brief history there of the faith, my role in the Faith Inclusion Network, and some of my background. The Faith Inclusion Network, let's see, the Faith Inclusion Network, one of the big things that I really, really loved about it is the fact that you have resources at your fingertips. And one of the things that, we have a lot of resources online, different organizations, different denominations. I know the Methodist Church has two different organizations that deal with disability, and so Faith Inclusion Network brought all of those things together. And so a lot of times we're trying to recreate a wheel and do it alone. And so this is one of the things I really did like about the Faith Inclusion Network, is the fact that you're not alone. There are other organizations. There's a lot of resources that are available. And so the Faith Inclusion Network really provides some of those connections that are important. And the network, the network was just very, very impressive to me. And what I really like about what you're doing there in Rochester, because you get support from other people doing the similar work. And so through the Faith Inclusion Network in Norfolk, there were seminars, there were trainings. Karen and the board helped families connect with some of these connect with some of the churches and faith communities. And so that network is really important. That's what I like about what you're doing there with Growth in Rochester. It's hard to do this work in isolation, and so doing this work together makes so much more sense. Some of the goals that we have are to help people with disabilities and families find welcoming and accessible churches. I'm sure you know that families deal with a lot of isolation, and so a lot of times they're not aware, but that isolation can be crippling. And so the relationships that churches offer can really, really be something that can be healing, and it has the possibility of being grace-filled and filled with acceptance as well. There are those possibilities when churches are doing the right things and good things with people with disabilities and their families. And so helping, there are churches out there doing the work that, and they may not realize that they're doing the work, but they're welcoming and accepting and don't have a program. That's okay, because families are looking for relationships and not programs. And but another goal is to provide the training and the consultations and networking. And I think the networking opportunities are just extremely important to sustain a disability ministry. And again, because there's so few people doing it, and the support we get from one another is just really important. And then the other thing that Faith Inclusion Network does is connect churches, faith communities with some of the things that are going on in our in the country as far as faith and disability. I had no idea when I got into this how many organizations are doing this work, and all the really great things that are happening with faith and disability. And they actually now are calling it a movement. And so there's a lot of support out there. And from the time when I was trying to get ordained back in the early 80s, there was nothing and no support. And just to see this in the nation, in different states and different organizations working in this area, it's really an exciting thing. And so we want to connect people with those, with some of the things that are going on in the country. And just so you know that churches and faith leaders know that they're not alone and that there is support out there. Again, some of the things that we can do are a lot of connections, and we've got some books, our connections to books, guides, curriculums. We have a list of about 12 consultants, other organizations that are doing this work in different parts of the country. There are probably about 20 partners that we have, and we can provide connections to denominational supports. Really, we're non-denominational, and I say that because we focus on the inclusion part, not the faith part. We leave the faith part up to the individual churches, but we focus on the mechanics and the best practices and the best ways to include people with disabilities and their families. And so that allows us to work with any denomination. And in fact, we've worked with other faiths as well. And so I just want to, we don't have a theological background that we're pushing at all. It's all about the mechanics and the theology of inclusion for people with disabilities, and how we can support that in different churches. And again, these are just a few of the other organizations doing this work in a non-denominational way. And so, again, it's out there. The support is out there. It's just knowing where to go. And that's what a lot of what the Faith Inclusion Network does, is connect faith leaders, connect people, ministry leaders with these resources. And so you don't have to recreate the wheel as far as developing a program. It's just overwhelming, because disability is such a big area. And, a lot of times it just starts with one or two people, and it's just overwhelming. But there's so much out there that can support you, and so many different ways that the Faith Inclusion Network can be of support as well. Knowing where some of these are and where to look. And so That's just a little bit about the Faith Inclusion Network, and I've learned a lot from what's going on now in the country as far as faith and disability work goes. And I'll just mention a few of those things that have surprised me and have been kind of liberating for me too. With some of the research, I know Eric Carter at Baylor has done in surveying people or families and parents that care for people with disabilities. Just a few things. He says the research has found that people are interested in relationships, not programs. And if you consider the isolation that a lot of families have, those relationships are just really, really impactful and important. Uh, that's one thing. Another thing that he found is that you don't have to have a lot of resources or money to to have a disability ministry. And that, again, a lot of our churches are so small and have limited budgets, and sometimes they're declining. But what I found from talking with smaller churches is that they are inclusive, they're welcoming, they're accepting. They just don't have they don't have the fancy name, they don't have all the professionals in their in their congregation. And that's what that's what gets all the publicity is are the programs at some of these mega churches, but you don't have to do that. And you can be really, really effective in a small church, maybe a little bit more flexible too, to help families find a faith family where they're accepted and welcomed. And you don't have to have it figured out. I mean, we can work those things out, but if you're willing, and I think willing to learn and willing to make mistakes and learn from those, you can be a big help. A church can be a blessing to families and to the kids. And a lot of the accommodations we make for people with disabilities, they're good for everybody, and so it's just a natural part of ministry, really, and that's helped me to think of disability ministry not as a separate program for a separate group of people, but more of, and it's about inclusion and inclusion for people of all abilities, and so that's been something that's been a different way of looking at it. And then I'll mention one other thing that has been eye-opening for me is when we first started at our local church, the question was, what are we going to do with these kids? But the question has changed for me now, and it's not how are we going to accommodate the kids? It's more, how are we going to meet their spiritual needs? And so that's been a big change for me, is to meet our families and to meet our parents and kids or people with disabilities as people, as spiritual beings. And our responsibility is to nurture them spiritually. We can work out all those other details, but for people with disabilities, let's focus on them as people, their gifts, their strengths. How can we meet their fellowship, their worship needs, their educational needs? How can we meet all of those? And so those have been some things that I've learned since getting involved with Faith Inclusion Network. And a couple other things about the Faith Inclusion Network I'll mention is that we are and there are a lot of conferences around that deal with the practical aspects of faith and disability. The Faith Inclusion Network is the fiscal sponsor of the Institute on Theology and Disability. And Patty has spoken and conducted some workshops at the Institute. It's a 3 to 4 day conference every summer that's held at different seminaries around the country. And so you have theologians that talk, we have different speakers and really international speakers that have come from Australia, Canada, and England. And so it's a 3 day seminar with plenary speakers and workshops. Ben is very, very involved in the planning of that. And so that is one opportunity. The other opportunity for Grow Fin is what we call the Disability Ministry Network. And what it is it's a nonprofit that supports organizations like Fin that are focusing on disability ministry. And it's not necessarily for the local churches, but the Disability Ministry Network can support Grow Fin, because Grow Fin is kind of a group of ministers that are interested in the disability aspect of ministry. So it supports the organizations working with the churches. And so that is something that's available as well. Again, we're developing some programs that can benefit Grow Fin, that could benefit Fin and other organizations who are doing the actual work with the congregations. So that is something that the Faith Inclusion Network is also involved in. In a nutshell, that's a little bit about the Faith Inclusion Network, and I'll tell you that Patty has been very, very involved. Has been a board chair and is involved on the program committee and other committees as well. And so he has a good inner knowledge of the inner workings of Fin and what it's about. And so, and I think he would be a good connector here with the Faith Inclusion Network and Grow Fin as far as the support that we can offer your group there. And then ultimately your churches, your faith communities there in Rochester as well. And of course, the final benefactors are going to be the families and people with disabilities that are impacted by the churches that you serve. So, but I'll answer any questions if you have any questions or comments.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for sharing about the Faith Inclusion Network and all that you do. And yeah, one of the areas that I certainly appreciate about the Faith Inclusion Network is all of the different opportunities for networking with others in the field in that area. Certainly through now through the Institute on Theology and Disability, but there were the gatherings back in Virginia with the networking with different leaders. And I know that's something we've done, and Disability Ministry Network has kind of picked up that as well. That's a good thing. But thank you so much. Todd, do you have any questions or?
It just occurred to me that I'm the webmaster for Greater Rochester Faith Inclusion, and we have not updated our website in years.
Mm.
It would be helpful if I could be granted access to stuff that I could populate our website with,
Mm.
even cross-pollinate, and, I'm not afraid to link to, like, if you have a training site,
Mhm.
seminar site, things like that.
Yeah, like different webinars or different,
Yeah,
yeah.
and to kind of network it with the national
Mhm.
website, so it would be
Yeah,
seamless,
yeah,
or appear seamless.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, we can definitely look into that as well. One of the things that Finn has done, as well as have a number of presentations. So the presentations done by a variety of folks to on different topics of disability as well. Which have been really
Yeah,
good to know as well.
yeah, and some of the webinars that we'll be planning
Thanks.
coming up in August, September, October focus on some of the mechanics of disability ministry. How can we support you as pastors
Mm,
when you're thinking about this? How, how do you form an inclusion committee, and how do you deal with recruiting and volunteers and for disabilities? So some of those specifics we'll be addressing, um, this year as well, and do more trainings which we record and can certainly share with you as well, and let you know about, so you may be able to attend some of those webinars.
thank you so much. Yeah, and the best way, how would people what is the best way for people to get in touch with the Faith Inclusion Network?
The best way is going to be to contact me. Let me put and I'm going to put my email in the chat here,
Okay.
and phone number.
Uh,
So yeah, if there's a question that you may have, you can give me a call, and I can point you in the right direction. We can uh, also see if there are some trainings that we may be able to provide by Zoom, or possibly if there are other people that may be closer to you that could provide some trainings, in-person trainings. We can
okay.
explore that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but we're here to help the churches succeed in disability ministry, and so in whatever ways we can do that, and we know each church is going to be different and have different resources, different things to offer. And so we don't have a cookie cutter of a program that will force down your throat or anything, but we will give you some options of how you can develop one for your particular church
Okay.
using the resources that your church has. And please remember, a church of any size can be involved and do effective ministry. And so don't rule yourself out just because you may be smaller or lack resources. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of different low cost ways you can be you can do a disability ministry, and different services that you can offer, different outreaches to families. Um, so uh, so anyway, that you can get in touch with me that way through my email there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes. And go ahead.
I think the thing that resonates with my own experience is that sea change of attitude from permission withholding to permission giving, from this is a burden laid on the local congregation to an environment that says, yeah, let's figure this out.
Mhm.
From being a problem to being a problem solver,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think when my heart is warmed, it's when there is a collaboration of kind-hearted people that say, okay, well, this is the challenge. What can we do to get over it, get around it, tunnel underneath it?
Yeah, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of, oh my gosh, it's a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting the congregation to go through that sea change of culture is a real challenge, much more in some than in other congregations. But the other thing that I would mention is it's hard, about the maintenance of that culture of welcome and inclusion, because institutions change, people, members of the congregation change, pastors change, but what are the ways? It's something I think about is, yeah, I might have done great things in 1995, but where are they now? What makes something sustainable? And are there strategies and ideas about that, where that thought is?
Yeah. I think one of the things I kind of learned from this journey here with Finn and talking with others um, is inclusion, kind of a theology of inclusion permeates the whole church and it can start in the pulpit, with support for inclusion of anybody. And so, I think that's important kind of to get the DNA, and different churches have different DNAs, but the sustainability, I think, is a really good point there, because if it becomes this part of the church that what we do is we include, then that's gonna sustain through other pastoral changes as well. The other thing, and this is really hard at our church, but is kind of to help everybody realize that we're not that we all have disabilities, but we all have limitations and challenges. And sometimes it's hard for church members, typical church members, to think that they're disabled, and that this applies to them. But the fact is, I think it's 1 in 4 people have a disability, and if you don't have one now, you will before it's over. And just that realization takes some time, I think, but just to realize that this whole theology of inclusion also includes a theology of being human and being dependent and interdependent on one another. And so it's kind of a way of life and that you kind of communicate. And, we've done this at our church a little bit. We're fortunate our church is really open and accepting, and has been that way for a long time. I still think they don't really look at themselves as disabled. And so that's a tougher sell in my congregation. But uh, those are a few things, as you think about your own church, how we can help them to be sustainable in their inclusive activities, and just being welcome and just starting a relationship. Everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Um, so every church has that to offer.
Yeah, the relationships are so important. And then also really the noticing that what I'm noticing now is it's becoming more and more common for churches to recognize the similarities between um, their members of the congregation who are getting older and have a hard time walking up and down the stairs, and the members of the congregation who may be visiting who live with disabilities, and saying universally, we can do something to remove the barriers for everybody and make sure that everyone fully belongs. Those conversations I've noticed are just starting to begin within the last 6 months to a year. No, so yeah,
Yeah, and that's encouraging.
definitely
One,
moving. Well, I'm just gonna say moving in the right direction. Definitely.
and I'll just add one other thing that's important is, I think, to the visibility in worship of people with disabilities, and as passing out bulletins or reading a scripture. Uh, I think it's important for people with disabilities to be visible, and to so that our congregation can see, hey, everybody can make a contribution, and uh, no matter what it is, and so the more visibility ways that we can put people with disabilities in leadership positions, or give them responsibilities at church, I think is really, really important as well. It makes some subtle changes in people's minds and mindset.
I think a couple of things about making systemic changes in organized religion. One is I would love to see, and I don't know how to do this, but I would love to see Episcopal leaders, like in my tradition, the United Methodist Church,
Yeah.
to issue a statement, and not just, a one-off, but follow it up with something meaningful
Mhm.
about the importance of inclusion in local congregations. I think, that needs to come from the top. Followed up with that, I think, in our credentialing and ordaining cultures, I think it's helpful to have clear and concise statements. Like in the United Methodist Church, it's the Board of Ordained Ministry. Like, what do you need to be ordained? Well, you need an MDiv, 3-year seminary degree, you need CPE, and it needs to be from an accredited seminary, et cetera, et cetera. It would be nice if disability and inclusion theology was somehow woven into that, so that those who are up for ordination are encouraged to take a path that exposes them to the grace and the love that is in the faith inclusion efforts. And lastly, I think the accreditation of seminaries is a pretty important stick. Yes, it's important that you have Old Testament, New Testament, homiletics, theology, etc. it would be nice to see a dialogue start to bubble up in the accrediting organizations about anyone who graduates with a Master of Divinity from an accredited school will have exposure to that at some point, in some setting. I don't know what and how that would look like, or what the levers of power that would need to be pulled to make that happen. But I think that those three things, the Episcopal leadership, the credentialing and ordination and accreditation of seminaries, those three areas could do an awful lot to ensure the next generation of clergy coming out are exposed to these principles and values, and I would hope that many would grow into them and hold them dear throughout their career.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Oh, excellent.
I think we are seeing some seminaries have more programs or certifications or in disability. So, not sure about the Methodist seminaries, but I think it would be big because young people now are growing up expecting inclusion to be something that businesses do. And so hopefully, I hope you're right that the institutions can make those changes as well and respond to that. So I guess, as you know, institutional change can be a little bit slow. So
Yes.
Well, I think about, the difference when I was in secondary school, people with special needs, they went to special class and they had their own wing in the school, and they were segregated.
Yeah.
Now, when my son went to school, his class was all about inclusion. I mean, he was on the cross country team and the basketball team, and they worked the coffee shop. I mean, they were fully included in all the activities of high school life. So we're graduating young adults, exactly as you said, with the expectation that people are being included in society in new and meaningful ways. And the church really should be a leader and not a follower. And if we're going to be a leader, we need to be bold and, to take the first step and step out there. I think you're right. People are expecting that. And it is just heartbreaking to me when families report that, they went to church with their son or daughter, and they were asked not to return. And I know that happened. It happens a lot. The very institution that should be a community of grace ends up being a community of prohibition. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I think personally we're only scratching the surface.
Yeah.
But man, the opportunities are endless.
Are there? Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, thank you, Tom, for being with us today and sharing, and yeah, such an important conversation.
And we'll be able to get this recording out to your mailing list.
Yes, and so we'll be sharing this recording to the people who receive the invitation. And I know this will be great information that people will look forward to receiving.
Well, thank you for having me, Patty. And I don't want this to be the end here. So definitely, we're going to keep working at Finn, and we're be happy to have some partners that we to work with and to support in our efforts as well. So uh, uh, let's do keep contact, and we'll let you know of the different areas that different webinars, things like that, that we can let you know about, and hopefully you can participate. And if there are any other ways that we can help you in the local church that you're in, definitely let us know, and we'd be more than happy to help you make some connections and succeed here.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, end the recording here.